Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 263, and we're going to talk about getting empowered. And I brought on a special guest. Her name's Marta Spirk. And I mean, I was looking at her stuff, and she's got TED Talks, she's got all kinds of stuff, but I think you're going to really like her story. So welcome, Marta, and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Rob. Super excited to chat with you.
I off air we talked about a little bit about the TED Talk, and I was encouraged to do one back in 2014, and I didn't do it. And since then, I've gotten so much work that I don't need the extra publicity that comes with all that. But a lot of people are saying, "Well, you should still do it. You should go for it." And my response is, "Yeah, but I'd rather start my own called Rob Rants because then I can just rant about everything." And I had mentioned that a while ago on social, and people are like, "Yeah, Rob, I want to do that one." But for those that need the extra attention that comes from a TED Talk, how did you get involved? And was there apprehension, or you just said, "Yes, I want to do this"?
Well, it was one of those things that, I'd known about it for a long time, but when I
Mhm.
started my business is when I felt I was in a position to do it because I saw other entrepreneurs doing it as well. And I am a speaker, I am a performer, I like being in front of a crowd. So it was one of the bucket list items. I started applying about 2 years into my business, so in 2018. And I actually heard back from one event here
Mhm.
locally in Colorado that invited me to audition in person. This was pre-pandemic. So they didn't do anything virtually. And unfortunately, at the time, my kids were very small. So I have triplets, and they were just like a month shy of 2 years old. And it was in a town 3 hours away. So I'd have
Wow.
to, probably get a hotel or something. It was very unfeasible at that time in my life. And unfortunately, I had to decline, which was heartbreaking. But then I thought to myself, and I'm very proud of myself now thinking about it. It was when I decided, hey, let me build this thing.
Mhm.
Let me grow, let me mature, let me get a better grasp of my own message, and it'll happen when it's supposed to happen because that's how life is.
Mhm.
And sure enough, at the time when I had applied to several, like done my rounds of signing up for newsletters to hear when they had open applications and things like that, a few years later, it was late 2021, I received an email from a local Tedx here in Colorado saying they had an event coming up and they needed volunteers. And I thought, you know what? It may be a good idea to go check it out, connect with these people, actually see an event in person. Because then I learned, now that I actually help people get on TEDx, the majority of people that want to be on TEDx have never actually attended an in person event. They just watch videos on YouTube. They know very little about what the event is all about. And that is one of the things that hinders you getting accepted is when you don't understand the format and what they're looking for. So,
Mhm.
without really knowing that that was the path to the stage, I, followed my heart, my intuition, and I thought, I'll go. And sure enough, as being a volunteer, part of being a volunteer is that they compensate you for it by giving you a training. So the curators offered a Zoom group training to kind of walk you through the application and let you know what they were looking for, and
Mhm.
also volunteered to have a one-on-one Zoom call before you applied to run through your idea. So obviously, I took them up on all of their offers, and I also decided to sponsor an upcoming event that they had. I figured it would be good visibility because right around that time I was about to publish my first book.
Mhm.
So it was all very good timing, right? With me publishing a book and then potentially doing a TED Talk. And that's exactly what happened. Within, was it 2 weeks of applying for that specific event, I got notice that I had been accepted, and I gave my TED Talk about 4 months later in March of 2022. So that's my story, and that's what I encourage my clients to do now is not worry so much about it being immediate,
Mhm.
focusing on the long game and on making connections, especially with a local event,
Yeah.
because that's what has worked out for me is I'm still connected with them. They've invited me to be part of their selection committee. So the fact that I'm local, it really helps further the exposure from that event
Mhm.
because I'm still connected with them. So that's the story.
one of the things that I teach is never rush the process.
Exactly.
And you said how life is, and this is how things were presented to you. And I find when you start skipping steps, when you start rushing ahead, you make too many mistakes,
Yeah.
it costs your business time and money and even your reputation. And I've been consulting people for a long, long time, probably over 28 years.
Wow.
But the social media aspect, that's only been over the last, I think since 2009, so 14 years. And so a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
And people are still reluctant to make videos. And we have these cameras, why not make videos?
Yeah.
Um, so maybe you're a little nervous. And the whole TEDx or TED Talk or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it is a little daunting. I probably made 1,000 videos before I felt comfortable getting on stage.
Mhm.
You know, and
Yeah.
and and I did. I was on stage in 2014 in Vegas.
Nice.
Well, it was nice. I mean, the thought of it was nice. I was doing a transition. I had a previous company. I was, from 1995 to 2014, I had a carpet cleaning business, and that's where I learned marketing. That's where I learned how to, you know, be more of a presenter, be, more of a study human psychology because I was dealing with a lot of women. I was going in their homes, cleaning their carpets, cleaning their furniture, and I had a whole team. And so you had to learn who you were dealing with. Well, when I was invited out to Vegas, I was to speak to a group of carpet cleaners. Well, about a year before that event, I was transitioning out of helping carpet cleaners and helping more doctors and lawyers and so yeah, I was invited out to speak, but I probably should have not gone because it really wasn't. It was no longer my market that I was
Mm.
going after. And I got there. I was exhausted. I didn't get any sleep. I choked. You know, basically, I just froze. I was behind a podium. I hate podiums. Luckily, I pulled out my cheat sheet and just read the thing, and people were like, "Yay!" And I'm like, "That was terrible." But I think sometimes we give talks, we go to events that really don't serve the audience that we're really meant to serve.
Mhm.
And sometimes our body tells us, "Hey,
Yeah.
don't go," and we resist.
Mhm.
And so the reason I bring all that up is I know a lot of people go to TEDx for a certain reason,
Mhm.
but really that reason is more self-serving than it is. It's supposed to lead to more business. It's to lead
Right.
to more communication, more connection. And I think some do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it too is thinking beyond that talk, like what is your goal? Because many
Mhm.
people may just think of it, I just want to say that I did it and have it be a bucket list item, which I mean, fine, if you get accepted, awesome. But especially when it comes to the event itself and the longevity of that video and that,
Mhm.
that presentation, having that in mind beforehand, and that's part of what I understood and also what I encourage my clients to do is really do some research on what's already out there.
Mhm.
That increases your chances of being accepted for one, but also it increases the chances of your talk standing out. So it's not just another personal development talk, motivational talk, which per TEDx guidelines, that is not something that they like. However, every license, every event is independent, so they have some leeway into, who they approve. But technically speaking, TEDx is not about telling your story. It's not about going up on stage and sharing, a beautiful story of overcoming or treating it like a memoir.
Mhm.
And this is the same approach that I've taken in my first book once I understood, yeah, but why would somebody care about my story? unless I make it about them in some capacity and
Right.
turn it over to them and bring some kind of lesson and practical application. That's really the goal of TEDx. And that's why they talk about an idea. So it's
Mhm.
not what's your story, it's what's your idea. Obviously, your story is going to help illustrate the idea, and that's what makes the idea unique. It's because you have a unique background. But the focus really is a different perspective on something that already exists or something completely novel to begin with. And and how does that set you apart? And when you're talking about business owners, right? Doing a TED talk to further their business and to increase their client base and reach more people, what makes you stand out as an entrepreneur is knowing what makes you stand out and leveraging that. So the same concept goes for everything. Anyone can publish a book, sure, but do you want it just to be another one, or do you want to actually be something that people will read? And
Right.
so
And
it,
I've written lots of books, but the ones that stand out, the ones that are me, my personality, are
Mhm.
the Rob versus books. And in fact, I'm coming out with Rob versus, and it's going to be book 8. I don't have a formal title to it yet, but you know, that is my sarcasm coming out and battling the credit card scammers and the lousy customer service and then I take those adventures and put them in a book, and then I put a little life lesson or blurb or business lesson at the very end. So people are laughing and they're carrying on and they're learning stuff. But it really isn't a direct in your face, hey, learn about podcasts, learn about social media, learn about SEO. I want them to laugh first.
Mhm.
And when I started this book series back in 2019, so I put out 2 a year. Everybody was so, hey, Rob, I love your, this book on this and this book on this. But now these books come out and they're like, wow, these are, I can just picture myself being in the room with these. And so that's how I stand out,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, and here you are teaching people not only how to stand out to give their talks,
Mhm.
but, taking those talks and kind of monetizing it for social media
Right.
and TV and other places.
Yes, exactly. Because that's the other thing too. I always say, whoever tells you that the only way for you to reach success is to do a TEDx, their business is probably teaching you how to get a TEDx, right?
Right.
If somebody says the only way for you to reach success is to have a very engaged email list, well, guess what? That's what they're selling you, how to build an email list. But, if you've been in business long enough, or if you haven't, here's a reality check. There is no one way. It's actually a combination of several different things. Whoever's selling you this fast track to success, just sitting on the beach and waking up to thousands of dollars in sales without doing much, um, that is not a thing. It's like when you go to the doctor, depending on what condition you have, but general things, you're going to hear the same thing. Drink more water, sleep 8 hours, good sleep, eat your fruits and vegetables, and move and exercise. When you're talking about business, it boils down to you need to network, you need to actually talk to people. This is never going to go away. No matter how much money you're making, no matter how big your company is, right? You're still going to have to talk to people and connect and add people to your network
Yeah.
and invest in marketing and talk about your offers. So that has been I think my MO is because of all the heartache that I have experienced in business and falling prey to the magic pill shortcuts. I've decided to turn around and be like, "Hey, guess what? It's all a lie.
Yeah.
If you like being lied to, go for it, but I'm going to be the one here, waving the flag of you have to work for it. It's not gonna be handed to you, and it's a matter of touch points with your audience. They need to see you several times, they need to talk to you several times, they need to build trust, and it's not going to be with just one thing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
several.
The whole know, like, and trust is great, but
Mhm.
I've always added a fourth element, and it's to make my clients feel safe.
Mm, yeah,
And during COVID, nobody felt safe.
yeah.
So you really had to, get in there and show them that, hey, this is what we can do for you. I know that you've been taken advantage of before. I know that you've swallowed the magic pills and you've, bought all the shiny objects, but this is in reality what we can do. I'm going to be your friend first. I'm going to be your marketer second.
Yeah.
And I've always had that philosophy because the fact is, I just can't come in there and say, look, it's going to be X amount of money and you don't pay me, forget it. I'm not your
Yeah.
friend anymore.
Hmm.
I have to come there as a friend, you know, make sure they're doing everything right first,
Definitely.
show them corrections, and then, hey, here's my invoice, but let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, I like you said, too many people taking the magic pills. They want to fast track everything. You can't
Yeah.
always do that.
Right.
And and social media is the same way. Just because we post, I don't want to always post about marketing. I don't always want to post about this is how I can help you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the whole basis of the Rob versus books. I started sharing out these stories of my adventures dealing with these scammers, and people are like, Rob, you should put that in a book.
Mhm.
And I've gotten more business from the Rob versus books because they just made people laugh than
Yeah.
I ever have from all the other books.
Hmm.
And so it's just a matter of getting people to, pay attention to you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to put on what they call plumage and magical colors and strut around. I'm not someone's guru. I'm not an influencer. I'm just someone that they can trust.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
that's what it's all about. Because at times, people are saying, "Oh, I don't have the money, or I can't invest right now." And while I believe that there's some truth to that, it's really a matter of trust,
hmm
right? It's like you don't ask somebody to marry you the first day you meet them. You got to get to know them. So I'm a firm believer in having different ways of engaging with your audience because they don't trust you yet. So they're
yeah,
not ready for a high ticket offer,
yeah,
but they may be willing to spend, a couple hundred, or I mean, even $20 or whatever
yeah.
to test it out. Like if this totally sucks, I'm not out that much money.
hmm
So giving people that opportunity, and also like you're saying, having conversations, because there's lots of people, and there's the two sides of it, right? You can't let people pick your brain. You
Right,
have to charge for your time. Hey, if somebody asks you a question, you send them the link saying book a call, pay me now. And I
yeah,
think there's a balance to that. Obviously,
right.
you don't want to be taken advantage of because there's lots of people that will take advantage of your time and set some boundaries. But at the end of the day, focusing on the relationships, it goes a long way for sure.
And one of the things because I've written books and you have too, I always make sure that the client or the potential client has read at least one of my books
Mm,
before I bring them on as a client
mm,
because they need to know a little bit about me. They need to know my personality. They need to know that we're going to mesh together.
yeah,
They need to know that, and I need to know that they did their homework on me,
exactly.
and so, if someone calls, hey, Rob, I was referred to you. Great. Have you read any of my books? No. Okay. What's your address? I will mail you one or two or
Hmm.
three. My cost. And, to me, that's the best way. I mean, I don't give out business cards anymore. I give out books.
Hmm.
And the conversion rate on that is so much higher than if I just gave someone a business card.
Right. And you position yourself as an authority as well, in a place of I get to select who I work with
hmm
as well. Like, sure, you need to see if it's a fit for you, but as a business owner, I have the luxury of deciding who I work with.
hmm
Instead of being in desperation mode, I'll take anyone and have headache clients that
Right.
we've all had that
Oh,
are never satisfied, ask for refunds. And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, there were red flags, and we
yeah.
just chose to ignore.
Well, and one of the things that I've done to eliminate refunds is I usually get paid up in advance. And
Mm,
if it's a client that doesn't have a lot of money, they want to pay, let's say, under $1,000. I'll say, look, this is my rate, and your fee is going to be combined into a quarterly payment, and I'm going to give you an invoice, and your next 90 days are covered. The reason I do that is I want them, one, to have skin in the game. I want them to send me the money that I know that they're serious. And then we're going to get started, get all their, the first 90 days done. And then we can go month to month after that. But I've discovered that it eliminates all the hassle, it eliminates all the complaints. And after the first month, they can't back out,
Right.
you know. But a lot of entrepreneurs are still in this mindset, hey, I'm going to bill you after the fact, and then they're going to sit there and wait 90 days to finally collect.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't have time for that. I'm not your bank.
Right. For sure.
So let's talk about your book. I see it in the background there, and and it's funny because I've helped a lot of people with their books, but usually they've been in business a lot longer than you. So you've already demonstrated that you know the stuff, and you're relatively newer in business, 5-6 years,
Mhm.
but you already have a book.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
It was an interesting journey because when I first started, within like 2, 3 years in business, I started feeling like I wanted to publish a book. Same thing with the TEDx. You see other people doing it, and you're like, oh, I wonder, what would it take? What would I talk about? And I remember one of my mentors said, oh, don't do it. Spend your money on something else. It's just going to collect dust in your garage. Just focus on some other ways of getting visible. And I was like, okay. Then I started working with a business coach that had 9 books,
Mhm.
and who actually got invited to do a TEDx because somebody read his book. So I got all these other, this other perspective and all this other evidence that it could be something beneficial to my business. And the other thing that, that helped really flourish, the seed flourish in me, was the fact that he encouraged me not to write a memoir.
Mhm.
That's a lot of what I was seeing around me, is writing about your story. So similar to TEDx, right, that I
Right.
just talked about, is nobody really cares. You're not dead yet, and you're young. What are you
Mhm.
really going to be talking about? Give them some practical application. Give them some steps. Yes, talk about your story, but how does that benefit them? And make it short. Make it like an airplane book that people can read within like an hour,
Yeah.
so that they actually read the entire thing versus looking at this huge Bible and being like, I don't even want to start,
Yeah. Every
you know?
single one of my books is very short to read. I mean, 120 pages. You read it
Mm.
in about an hour or so,
Same.
and I mean, the very first book that I wrote, the very first chapter was share your story. However, if you read all my books together, I mean, there's a lot.
Mhm.
You still won't know my story.
Right.
You'll know bits and pieces,
Yeah.
but it's not a memoir. It's
Mhm.
it's me teaching you a subject that I think that you need to know.
Yeah.
And so I intersperse it with some life lessons and whatnot. But I think when most entrepreneurs are in business 5-6 years, they got many stories that they can share out.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, so that's what I focused on, is sharing a little bit of my background, but also giving some steps in the coaching framework that I had developed by then. And it's so interesting because I'm actually in the process of publishing a second book right now. It's coming out in a few weeks as of
Wow.
this recording, but it's a different format. It's actually a collaboration book. I have 21 of my clients that have written a chapter in it. So what it's been beautiful to see how what seemed like a made up coaching framework, which it was, but based on my experiences. Because
Mhm.
that's another thing. I decided, like, Brendon Burchard, Tony Robbins, all these people, they came up with methods and
Mhm.
steps and frameworks. Well, why can't I?
Mhm.
If I start, saying that these are my steps and I use them with my clients and they get results, there you go. It's a method and I can write a book about it.
Mhm.
And so these same steps, a part of them is what I shared on TEDx. So everything is interconnected. And then now in this collaboration book, I actually used the 5 steps into creating 5 parts. So I organized the 21 chapters within these parts. So there's this common thread, and also encourages people to go and read my first book so that they can get the full story, since I don't have a chapter in the book. I'm just emceeing it, but I'm super excited about it. But yeah, about the first book, it's just that. It's called The Empowered Woman, The Ultimate Roadmap to Business Success. And it's very much focused on personal development and mindset. And that's the foundation for you to grow your business, is taking a hard look at yourself, which business has a way of doing that anyways. I say that building a business, marriage, and having children, it's holding up a mirror in front of you. You can't escape.
Yeah.
You are forced to see who you are and understand your weaknesses, understand that they can be your strengths. It's just how you're leveraging it, right? And then I share these 5 steps on how to get curious about yourself, forgive yourself, really accept who you are so that you can be forgiving of your clients, of your mentors, and really transform into an empowered woman or man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I try very hard not to hold grudges. And you know, one of the employees that I had working for me long, long ago, I ran into him recently, and 20 years had gone by, and he's
Mm,
still holding a grudge against me. And I'm like, dude, this is why you don't have, a lot of things. And I'm not saying it's because of this grudge, but
right.
when you hold a grudge against somebody, all you're doing is harming yourself.
Exactly.
I didn't even know he had a grudge. So for
Right.
me, it didn't bother me. But so, I get mad. If I get mad at somebody, 10 minutes later, I've forgotten and I move on.
Mhm.
Because to me, I got a business to run.
Yeah.
I have a family to raise. I got grandkids. You know, I can't afford to hold grudges against people.
And I don't think people realize that there is a lot of that in business and it can hinder your growth because we think forgiveness, oh, my mom, my parents, my siblings, my grandma, or my spouse, my kids. Well, but what about your business relationships,
Hmm.
right? The way you're feeling or even being triggered online with strangers,
Yeah,
which that's a very real thing. This could be the very thing that's keeping you from your next level.
yeah.
And then you think, oh, it's the algorithm or people don't want to pay me. Yeah, well, take a hard look at how you're reacting and responding to situations in your life.
Well, also, and for the people out there that are still thinking about writing a book, I want to tell you something that writing a book, or in my case, producing 40 of them in 10 years is very therapeutic.
Hmm.
And it's for me, it's a lot cheaper than going to a psychologist or
True.
or therapist or wherever you want to go, because there's a lot of your thoughts and sweat and tears that go into making these books. And for me, that's therapy.
Yes.
You know, yeah, my Rob versus books are funny, but imagine if I didn't share those in a book. You know, I'd be slamming the phone down. I'd be yelling and angry, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. So, you know, what I'm feeling, how you're feeling, you put it into a book, it becomes emotional and it becomes something that you can share with somebody, and you're teaching the next generation, how to cope, how to deal, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and so I admire people like yourself that have written a book that understand the process,
Hmm.
because it's just it's yeah, and whether you write one book, 9 books, 40, 100, it doesn't matter. It just, you know, get a book out there.
Yes, get it out and really understand that this is you committing to your message. I feel
Hmm.
like that was a turning point for me in my business when I was actually willing to admit to the world that it wasn't a hobby, that it
Hmm.
wasn't just something I was playing with.
Right.
It's my life,
Hmm.
it's for real. I believe in these words. Yes, I could pull the books off the shelf or do whatever, but it's different than a social media post. You can delete your account, right? It goes
Hmm.
away after 24 hours, nobody knows. And the same thing goes for TEDx as well. It's like it's me sending out the signal that I really believe in what I'm saying and I'm not going to back down and I'm not
Hmm.
going to give up. And that is a very important stance as an entrepreneur because we all know the roller coaster that it is. And, thinking, oh my gosh, I may as well go get a job, right? We all
Yeah.
have those feelings from time to time, especially if we have unexpected financial crises or whatever. But then you get all this stuff in place. It's like, ooh, I
Yeah.
can't really
Yeah.
just
And it, like you mentioned, it's not always just one thing.
Mhm.
You know, say someone saw you on TEDx and they thought, oh, okay, that's great, and then they forgot about you.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're reading your book. They're
Mhm.
they're looking at your social. They've
Exactly.
watched videos. Everything adds up.
It does.
And I know as entrepreneurs we don't always have the time. But you know what? A 3-minute message
Mhm.
on your phone, post it on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, may inspire somebody.
Yes.
And I'm not one, I don't subscribe to the whole let's go viral with the video,
Hmm.
because most of the people that are looking at those videos will never be your client.
Exactly.
So I just want to inspire one person every day. And if they become a client, that's great.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's a way better approach to it because it's not, again, out of that desperation. Is
right.
this my big break? It's like, I don't care about the big break because hardly ever there is a big break, quote unquote. It's a combination of different things that you did, the people you connected with, right? So it's very elusive to think that there was this one thing that changed it all.
Hmm.
And usually when we see that in someone's life, it's because we don't know the backstory. We
Right.
don't know what they had been doing. It's like, saying you're overnight success, it only took 20 years to get there. So yeah, it's I think enticing because we want to believe that that's true because we want it for us,
Yeah.
right? Oh my gosh, that'd be a dream. But it's really not true.
Yeah.
So the more
Right.
people like us to
Right.
open people's eyes, the
And
better.
and and so, empowerment takes on a whole different meaning when you look at it from that standpoint.
Right.
It's not you're coming at this saying, "Hey, I want to get this one thing, this one magic pill, this one silver bullet that's going to
Mhm.
give me everything." And you say, "No, it's all these little things added up that
Yes.
make me stronger."
Exactly. And it's what I like to say, visibility compounds. It really does. Like
Hmm.
when people look at me and they see me doing all these things, I I really like to remind them all, if you weren't around for the last 7 years, because it's been almost 7 years that I started my business, then you didn't see my first Facebook Live. Sometimes it'll pop up in a memory and I'll share it. I look like a freaking 15-year-old. My voice was like this. Hi guys. But I had to start somewhere.
That's
I
right.
didn't start. I didn't
Yeah.
come out of the womb a
Yeah.
TEDx speaker and author. You know what I mean? And people need to be reminded of that.
Well, my first 100 videos were terrible, and I still look back and go, "Oh my goodness!" But I still share them out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and just the other day I shared out a video again. The video is probably 10 years old.
Mm.
But the person that commented goes, "I really like this message," and they went out and bought some of my books.
Mm.
So you never know where that next client is coming from.
Mhm.
But you don't always have to be omnipresent either. Yes, we
Right.
want to be visible, but to be on 100 different social networks doesn't make
Right.
sense.
No.
I tell
Yeah.
people pick three. Yeah, YouTube
Mm.
because of videos, Facebook because that's where everybody goes. And then if you want to be on TikTok, great. But for me, I always found success with LinkedIn because
Mm.
those are the entrepreneurs, those are the
Right.
movers and shakers and the CEOs. And um, so it's, but to each his own.
Right.
If TikTok is where you dominate, then stay there.
Hmm. Right. Focus on one. I think uh, there's usually one platform where you tend to see more of a return, probably because you like it better.
Hmm.
And I say have a presence in the other ones. It's not something that you heavily focus on or engage with people a whole lot, but it's nice to at least have an updated profile so that if you connect with somebody new that only uses that platform, they're not seeing a post from 3 years ago and
Right.
your picture is not from 10 years ago, right? So do your due diligence in the sense of being updated. And usually what I do is I just cross post my stuff. It's so
Yeah.
easy. People
Well,
ask
I
me, how
mean,
do you do it? Do you have, people that post your content? Do you have a scheduler that posts for you? And I'm like, no, I have my thumb and I copy paste. That's what I do.
well, I use a service called Social Bee, and
Hmm.
I load all my content in there. I mean, I have thousands and thousands of posts, and I
Nice.
tell it, okay, Monday post this type of
Hmm.
stuff, Tuesday post this, and it just cycles through. So I kind of have an idea what's being posted when.
Right.
I don't always know that, hey, that's the exact post that came out on Tuesday of this day, but that saved me 20 hours a week from copying
Hmm.
and pasting. And
Right.
and that way it can post to Twitter, it can post to all these different places. So I still look like I'm there,
Exactly.
but
That's
I'm not
that's it.
really there because honestly, I don't like Twitter. Now it's called X.
X, yeah.
Um, but I know that a lot of people go there and they look at my stuff and just no, I don't want to be there. It's so hard.
Yeah.
You know.
You get to choose. It's your business. That's the
Right.
beauty of it. But also, at times, the tricky part is that you have so much freedom of what you could be doing that you feel pulled in all the different directions.
Hmm.
But yeah, just like you said, and that's been my experience too.
And and
Focus on the
and
platform that you've had more return and be present in the other ones just in case.
right. And freedom is that word that I always use a lot because you started this business, whatever business you're in, so that it can fund your personal life, so that you can take vacations and have fun. And
Right.
but you didn't fund your business with your personal life. You
Right.
don't need to devote 20 hours a day to your business.
So
So
true.
empower yourself to take whatever steps necessary to make it a little easier for you, not only to make money,
Right.
to attract clients, and to go on vacation or spend time in the community or do whatever you need to do. But yeah, it just I love empowering people, but I want them to be empowered for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely. And learn how to do it on their own as well.
Yeah,
That is one of the things that I've been very grateful to some of my mentors that say, I am excited for the day that you graduate and that you don't need me anymore. That means I coached you well.
right,
So that you're not codependent on me and you. I mean, isn't that what we should be aiming for as parents as
right,
well? I want them, as hard as it is, I want them to be independent and to know how to do stuff without me because there will be a day where I'm not going to be around.
right.
So,
And even though I'm always right, I give my clients leeway to make mistakes because
mhm,
they need to learn.
yeah,
So, if I know that what they're going to do, their next step that they're going to take could fail, I may say, look, this in my experience, what you're going to do may cost you, but you're going to do it because you need to learn.
yeah,
And it's the hardest thing sometimes to just allow them to do whatever they want to do, knowing that it's going to cost them money.
right.
Um, but I for me, it's I can't always. If I always told them, hey, 100% you have to listen to me, you got to do this, 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 and this. Um, they hired me for the wrong reasons then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
Well,
let let
I say that on the same hand with like the magic pill. If
mhm,
you love getting pitched the magic pill, I'm not the coach for you. But if you're
right.
sick of hearing that there is one foolproof formula towards success, then I'm your coach.
Yeah. So let's talk about you have a coaching program coming up.
Yes, I do. So it's a 10-week more visibility mastermind. And the whole focus is helping women entrepreneurs become more visible. So finding the ways that that may be falling through the cracks that they could be increasing their visibility, not only with social media content, but also with speaking. I'm a big fan of networking, like I said, connecting with people. And when I say visibility, people are like, oh my gosh, I want to be more visible, but they have no idea what that actually means.
Hmm.
So I've actually created under these three categories of content, speaking, and networking, several different visibility opportunities and prompts to help entrepreneurs um, actually know what to do. Because at times we're just sitting in front of a computer, we feel like we're being productive, but we're not. So I've actually created a list of different tasks that you can be implementing. And it could be as easy as 5 minutes a day, or if you really want to go hard, like I'm going to apply to several podcasts and make that your main thing, awesome. But choosing some things within the three categories that you can dedicate some time to that are going to generate more visibility for you. So, this is the focus of the mastermind. It's going to be an intimate group, 15 ladies max. We're going to have 10 group calls. So, we're going for 10 weeks like that. You also have one-on-one access to me and to my other programs. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. So how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
Well, you can find me anywhere, like we just talked about. I like to be at least have a presence. I hang out a lot on Facebook. That's my preferred platform. I have a Facebook group called the Empowered Woman Community. I'm also on Instagram, Marta Spirk, on LinkedIn, Marta Spirk, and my website, martaspirk.com, and also my podcast, The Empowered Woman.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few minutes. Let's talk about that because I just looked on your website and you've done what, 300 plus episodes.
I
Is that
have.
is that weekly? Is that, a
It's
couple
I
times a week?
I started out with a couple a week. I had a solo and an interview, and soon I realized how much work that was. So I went to every week. Sometimes I skip depending on what's going on if I'm busy. But it's been mostly weekly. So that was when I talked about, publishing a book, doing TEDx, being a commitment to your message. I believe the first step was starting my podcast and being
Hmm.
like, I'm going to put this out there and I'm going to talk into the abyss and see if anybody resonates. And it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
So definitely it has resonated with people, but that was me believing that I had something important to say.
Hmm.
And it's been an amazing journey. I've had amazing guests from all over the world, people listening from all over the world. Very grateful for this platform.
I started this podcast in 2018, so it's in January it'll be 6 years.
Nice.
And there was a 6 month gap early on when I think it was episode 33 to 34. There was a 6 month gap because I got tired of doing it.
Mm.
It's not to say that I got tired. I think I was recording once a week,
Oh,
and life happens,
oh yeah.
and I thought, okay, well, I haven't done a podcast in a while. I got to start this back up.
Mhm.
And so I started batch recording. So I would do, 6 to 12 of them at a time. I'd have, 2 months worth of podcasts scheduled, and it just made life so much easier.
Mhm.
And, you know, so now we're, like I said, this was 263. And, I have people say, hey, Rob, I want to be on your podcast. I want to do the, and I'm very selective. I mean, if I see that someone has a superpower that I think needs to be heard, I will invite them on the show.
Mm.
And so it's I like to have an eclectic mix of people
Mhm.
because you know like you just shared, you have certain qualities that resonate with people, and I think that the whole TEDx and TED Talk and I know they get interchanged a lot.
Yeah.
But people want to know that
Yeah.
they want to know the ins and outs. They want to know how to be empowered, and I just think this conversation was awesome. So everybody, I want you to go to Marta's website, martaspirk.com. I'll leave the link below, and if you're watching on video, if you're listening on audio, just sound it out. So I think you'll get it. But she's
Yeah.
everywhere. And this is why I have people like Marta on the show, because you know everybody needs to have an interesting story. And we only touched on a little bit, with her triplets and with her talks and her mastermind, but learn about her and listen to her podcast and you know if you're a woman who wants to learn more, join her mastermind, because I think it's going to be very beneficial. So, any last words you want to share before we end it?
I don't think so. I usually end everything with be empowered. So I hope this was empowering to everyone watching and listening. Thank you so much, Rob.
There you go. Be empowered. And we'll see you or listen. You can listen on the next episode. Adios.